2, 1, and we are live. We are live on the Growing Up Fundie Facebook page. We are live on YouTube, and we are live on Twitch. Everybody, say hello to Aubrey and Kathleen. Aubrey and Kathleen, say hello to everybody. Thanks for being here.
Hello,
Hi.
everybody.
Hello.
I'm so excited.
Yeah, this is fun.
Me too. I'm so excited to have you. I feel like we vibed so well when you guys were on the podcast, and I really wanted to have you back. And so you guys are stepping in. You're visiting from the Christian and the Atheist podcast. So tell us a little bit about it.
You want to talk? I'll talk about it. You can. I don't care either way. So I'm the Christian. I'm Aubrey. This is Kathleen. And what's funny is I did blue lights over here and red lights over there so that
so you can remember who's who.
I believe this, but like heaven and hell kind of thing. Like heaven, I believe in heaven, and people who believe in heaven usually think atheists are going to hell. I don't feel that way though.
I mean, neither do we, so it's fine.
Yeah,
it's true. We're all doing great. And so, yeah. So, and of course, Kathleen's atheist, ex-Mormon, but she can talk more about that. But I'm more of I say non-denominational. I'm finding non-denominational people that believe stuff that like rock my world. I'm like, mm-mm. So basically progressive Christian. I am like kind of a like chill person, but we decided to do this together because we became friends. I knew she was atheist. She knew I was Christian. We kind of avoided each other. And then decided I was very interested in how someone could be of the faith that she once was and then just leave. And I was like, that's crazy. I don't understand that. I want to know more. Tell me everything. And Mormonism.
Yeah, that's a whole situation.
Right. It's like from one extreme to the other.
Yeah. So I was like, this could be fun. So one day we found each other in the same area or same place at the same time. And I was like, tell me everything. And so she spilled her guts. And I was like, that's really neat. So then I guess I like to say that God gave me the idea. What do you think? I'm just kidding. And so, I mean, like, I was just one day felt like something told me to make a podcast about being Christian and her being atheist and coming together and showing like this like love for each other that is accepting of each other. I don't have an agenda. I'm not trying to convert her. She's not trying to convert me. It's a beautiful mutual respect. Yeah. We are also sharing other stories, like stories of people who are still in the church, people who have been church hurt, and it's been pretty cool. And if you hear noises,
it's the children.
There's children here.
Listen, I literally have parrots, so you're going to hear noises probably.
Just gonna throw that out there. But so we've been doing this 2 years.
Almost.
We're on season 2. We're about to wrap up season 2. So. Yeah, it's been
That's
fun.
Awesome. Yeah. And what I like about it too is that it's not even a tolerance podcast. It's a like you are legitimately friends, and like the energy is very welcoming. It's the kind of energy that you can't fake for entertainment or for views. You can tell that you are genuinely friends, and
we really do enjoy each other. Like
we really like we hang out a lot outside of podcast, and we do a lot of podcast stuff, obviously.
Yeah.
But like we hung out all night today. We're gonna go to tomorrow to do podcast stuff, and then we're probably gonna get together Thursday.
Yeah, we got plans all week.
We get together a lot.
Which is really, really cool. And I think that's awesome, because I think we have a lot of podcasts in our sphere that are like, look at me, I am a Christian and I am very nice to atheists. Or we have a lot of the opposite too, like, look at me, I am an atheist and I am not going to yell at this Christian. We're just gonna, but you guys are like, we are vibing, we're friends. This is like a high energy podcast. It's very genuine. I feel like the conversations that I listen to would be the same conversations if there wasn't anybody recording. That's just the way that you talk.
A lot of times we have to be like, wait, we got to stop talking about this till we record, because we got to record about this.
Or we'll record and I'm like, we can't say this.
That's true.
Or maybe we just feel, my mom, like one time I was talking mad crap on my mom. And she's like, do you really have to put that on the podcast? I'm like, absolutely.
Yes,
it makes you behave.
Yes, I do.
Yeah. It's like, listen, as my cousin said about a stand-up set he listened to, he was like, if they don't want you to talk about it, they shouldn't do it. And he was talking about his mom. He was talking about a set I did about his mom. He's like, listen, why would I be offended? She did it. I feel like that's a good way to live your life, right?
Yeah.
Like, this is your punishment. Remember how you used to like ground me?
Yeah.
This is your trouble.
Now you're grounded.
Yes.
Yeah.
Exactly.
That's hilarious.
what has the overall reaction been to the podcast? Do you find that more positives come from Christians, from atheists, a little bit of everything? Has there been anything that surprised you about the reaction people have?
I was surprised the amount. I fully expected. We live in a very like conservative area, very red state, Bible Belt, like, and we don't live in a huge city. We live in sort of like a smaller suburb of a small city, and so I fully expected all the Christians to come out of the woodwork and be like, "This terrible atheist," and they were all mad at her. And nobody cares what I do. They're all mad at her. It's crazy.
Yeah,
I get a lot of shit
because
Yeah.
of your friendship with an atheist.
Yeah.
And
well,
or she's not Christianing right. She'll say stuff like first of all, what are we talking about?
oh,
There we
that's
go.
fun.
Hi, babies.
Continue. I'm sorry.
But like, you know, she'll talk about being, you know, pro women's rights, and people get on and be like, if you believe that, then you're not an atheist, or not a Christian, and it's wild.
Yeah, and then like giving her space.
Yeah.
And telling her that she can be who she is without
Like giving her a
being like,
platform.
hey girl, yeah,
Yeah.
like
Like the whole point of the
and
show.
share
Yeah.
space.
Yeah,
I shouldn't be doing that. Like, oh no, if I breathe her oxygen, it might poison me. I don't know. It's wild. And then one time we did talk about the Book of Revelations, and this was an
Yes.
atheist who asked us to do that. And
Yeah.
I don't know what his agenda was on that, but I was just like, yeah, it's whack.
Yeah,
And
it
she's
is.
like, you guys did not read enough of that. And I'm like,
Yeah.
Yes.
Are we gonna read the whole thing? How
Who
much
wants?
time do we have? What are you talking about, Kevin? This
Yeah.
is crazy.
Right.
I'm a
Okay.
Christian and I
And
don't read them.
the Book of Revelations is whack, first of all. Anytime I tell somebody who didn't grow up Christian about the Book of Revelations, they're like, yeah, right. Like, you're just saying this. And I'm like, no, I swear to
There's a
you.
freaking dragon. A dragon.
Right. Right.
It's crazy.
Right. And it is scary, right? It is
Yeah.
scary.
Yeah.
But that's really interesting. They got, okay, so maybe you agree with this, maybe you disagree. I'm curious your take. I've always remembered that being the wrong type of Christian was worse than being an atheist. Do you still agree with that in terms of like your listeners and like being, for example, like a Presbyterian or a
Mhm.
Lutheran as opposed to a Baptist or whatever, like depending on what denomination you're in?
You can't do anything right over here. Like
Right.
I was telling Kathleen, it must be nice.
Yeah.
It must be nice.
Right.
It's not like I will come in.
I'm like footloose and fancy free.
Yeah,
I
she's
don't give a
living
shit.
this really great life. I'm over here like, I don't know what to do right now. I can't
Right.
do it right.
No.
And
Right.
I do feel a lot of weight. And it's actually, this has been something that's been new, that I'm like, I don't know what to think about being Christian anymore. And I love God. Like I believe in the Christian God. But there's so much that's like not something that I'm like, I'm not jiving with this part
Right.
of it.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
so when I'm like, am I being misleading by saying I am a Christian if I'm not fully like engaging in what the Bible says on certain things? And
Mhm.
so
Yeah.
I have been struggling very much with that lately. And then I'm also like, when I go to church, I feel very at home. I feel very like, this is my place. I love this place. And then I'm also like, when I'm with my atheist friends, or when she's like my only real atheist friend. Like we have people that we are
Yeah.
in contact with because of the podcast.
Right.
And I'm like in front of them and I'm like, yeah, this shit's bananas. But then it's like, so I'm like,
Yeah.
I feel like I have been struggling with feeling almost two-faced, but I'm not two-faced. Like what you get is what you get.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I'm like, I'm struggling with it because I'm like, I don't know. But I feel like everybody does this.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and I think there is also a really great quality, especially coming from somebody who identifies as a Christian, when they are able to say out loud, like, yeah, there's a lot of stuff I don't understand, or there's a lot of stuff that I disagree with, but at the same time, like, there's more that I agree with, or the parts that I agree with are important enough that I'm
Mhm.
willing to try and figure out what it is that I think or believe
Yeah.
about the other part.
Yeah.
And that's basically where I'm at. I'm like,
Right.
I don't know
Absolutely.
about
It's
And I feel like
genuine. Yeah.
right. Exactly. It makes you like it makes you very genuine. And it's not that
thank you,
athe-
by the way.
yeah, it's not that atheists aren't genuine people. It's that we don't really have as much to worry about. Like,
I was
you know-
like, your eternity's fine.
Right. Right.
I'm
Exactly.
not
That's like-
stressed.
right. We're like, nobody is making our rules really.
Yeah.
Like there's
and-
just
Yeah.
that's it.
And as much as I want to be like, I don't care what other people say, I'll start finding myself caring what other people say.
I mean,
And I'm
everybody
like,
does that. I mean, the
Yeah.
amount of times that I'm like, oh, I don't care what anybody thinks. And then I immediately only care what everybody else thinks.
it's
Yes.
annoying.
Like always.
And nobody
Right.
said anything to me, and I'm caring about what they might say.
Yeah.
Right. Especially when you both are in entertainment and you're in a
Mhm.
field
Yeah.
where what people think literally is what keeps
Right.
you
That's what we're
going.
doing.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
And it may not like make you, cry yourself to sleep every night, but you
Right,
would
no.
rather people enjoy it,
Yeah.
like it's
Yeah.
not that I care what people think. I would just rather they enjoy it than not enjoy
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
That was
You're so cool with your
That's
birds.
so cool.
It's like,
Thanks,
I need
guys.
a snake or something.
You're the only
Cool.
people who think that, I promise.
You best believe I would wear a snake like a scarf.
Oh yeah, I'm
Walk
wearing
to
I don't,
Walmart.
yeah, I don't
Yeah.
think I could do that.
Shout out to Secular Rarity, who's in the chat, joining us for another
Hi.
live stream.
Hi.
They're actually going to be on the podcast later on. So welcome,
Oh,
Secular.
Sweet.
Welcome everybody who's
Awesome.
watching. So has there been anything that's come up specifically from being a part of the podcast that has changed what you've believed since starting the podcast? Like any thoughts or opinions you didn't realize you had until you started it? Or were like confronted with the need to answer something?
I don't think I have. That ship is kind of sailed. I mean, and I'm, it may change. Tomorrow I may wake up and be like, I'm thinking some things.
Yeah.
But I don't think I really have.
Right. I think that because of the types of guests that we've had, I've had to learn how to talk to people. And as a Christian, you don't realize how shitty you can be with like meaning it in love. It's
Yeah.
like, you can't say that to get people. So like, for example, we had a guest recently and I can't remember what I said to her. It was Hillary. And I said, she said to me, if she could feel the love the unconditional love that I feel from God, then she would be Christian, but she cannot. And I'm like, God, I wish you could. And I said something along the lines of, I wish I could give this to you. And she's like, you just can't. And so I'm like, I almost feel like she felt like I was trying to pressure her into doing the Christian thing. And I was like, I got to be careful with how I talk to people. And then the assumptions that I make with how atheists believe, and like thinking that I don't know how to word that though. I do have to be careful with how I word my things.
Yeah. I will say, I don't think she necessarily felt like you were pressuring. But I do think that is an interesting, thought that a lot of Christians don't necessarily have.
Or just considering how I assume you guys think.
Yeah.
I think it's the assumption of what you guys believe and how you guys do your life. And like, how you, like I did before I met Kathleen, I did learn this a little bit before the podcast, just talking to her, is y'all are fine and not dark and sad.
Yeah.
Not all the time.
Yeah.
Well, because if you are, it could be like not because you don't have religion, it's because life's crazy.
Yeah.
Sometimes you get sad, and it's
because we just don't have good
Jesus
health insurance. That's what
Fear.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or mental
Interesting.
health.
The economy is weird.
like,
I don't know.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
And then were there Kathleen, were there any things on your end that you thought maybe you were stereotyping or that changed about you?
Oh,
Because I know you started as a Christian and became an atheist, so maybe it's been different for you.
Yeah, I started super fundamentalist, super involved in Mormonism. And so to go from this is every bit of every part of my life to none of it, I had to basically refigure out everything about myself. I had to rethink just every facet of my personality and all of the choices that I made in my life and be like, okay, what's real and what's Mormonism? That was really stressful. And then coming out of that, it was like, okay, I don't want to talk to people who are Christian or Mormon or anything like that, because there's always that mindset of they're going to try to get me back to church. They're going to try to reverse all this work that I've been doing. And so like when I first met Aubrey, I was very kind of like arm's length, like
right.
Because I was completely scared that she was going to be the stereotypical, Bible Belt Christian of if you're not coming to church with me, then we aren't talking to you.
Well, I did ask her to go with me.
Yeah, which is
hey, maybe you should try my church out. Maybe the one you went to sucked and mine's really cool.
But
she's like, I don't think so. And I was like, cool.
Yeah, and that was, and see that I don't mind if you meet somebody and you extend an invitation and they say, "Oh, no, thanks, that's not for me," the correct answer is, "Okay, cool."
Right.
That's it.
When people ask a yes or no question and then are shocked and offended by no, under any circumstances, I'm always like, then why didn't you just make a demand? Like, why didn't, like, just be honest?
Yeah.
See, Secularity asks, why do you think y'all are able to have calm, easygoing conversations even though you are on opposite sides when it seems so many others are struggling with that in the US today?
I mean, that's the point of the show. We started it in 2020 when everybody and their dog blew up in the brain.
Yeah.
And there was so much division on all kinds of different fronts, like not just religion, but politics and healthcare and like everywhere in the world, there's just everybody's freaking out. And so we were just like, let's show that you can, if you have the respect for each other and you come at a conversation with respect and care, then you can find common ground.
And I think the reason why we can is, and I can speak for both of us in this, just out of, as a Christian, you can only allow people to accept it or not accept it, move on when they don't. And she's accepting that I'm not going to take on atheism.
Yeah.
And she's not expecting anything. I think we let zero expectations on each other except for just have a blast.
Yeah.
It's like, I think that separate, but like Kathleen by herself is a good time. Me by myself is a good time. You put us together. We're moms. We're like in the same city. We believe a lot of other things. We're very like politically similar.
Yeah. We have a lot of similar beliefs outside of religion and even inside of religion. There are things that you say that you're like, yeah, as a Christian, I don't want to do X, Y, and Z. And I'm like, yeah, if I were religion, that's exactly what I would say.
And if I was atheist, I'm game for whatever. But I don't know. I think it's just, we have a lot of similarities, personality similarities, and just love each other deeply and to our core, to a point of like accepting each other as we are. Like, and it goes well.
Yeah.
So absolutely. Yeah. Great answer. And I think also, maybe this, I mean, I know the question wasn't towards me, but this is just my thought on the idea. Maybe also part of it is I've noticed that when people disagree, so say for example, I'm an atheist, you're a Christian, a lot of times, especially on social media, when we're not like face to face with people, we take your disagreeing or not believing what I believe as an offense, as like by you saying that's not what I believe, I take it as I'm the idiot apparently and I'm wrong. And I feel like it takes getting face to face with people, whether it's on Zoom or StreamYard or in person, and really having that conversation before you understand how much of the noise was almost made up, was like was
for sure.
Was, what's the word I'm looking for, was created basically by your mind and by, I think, our own insecurities. I think when we aren't sure, especially with like religious and political beliefs, when we aren't 100% sure that we're correct, we automatically assume that everybody else thinks we aren't 100% correct either. And I don't think there's supposed to be offense taken there, like by somebody by somebody liking a different movie than me or liking different food than me or preferring different weather than me. That's not offensive. So why is it suddenly offensive when it comes to politics and religion? Now, I can see how certain political opinions are offensive because they impact your life, right? Like that's different. So if somebody's opinion is, I just don't think women should talk much, like I just think they should be quiet, like I'm going to be offended by that, but because it impacts me directly, right? Like
exactly.
So but when you say I'm a Christian, that doesn't impact me in any way. If you were to say I'm a Christian and I'm going to march on Washington and make sure that everybody has to follow, that's different. Just like if I were to say I'm an atheist and I'm going to go to Washington and I'm going to march and I'm going to make sure you have to do what I believe, that unacceptable, right? But the general idea that you exist and that I exist should not be nearly as offensive to one another as it sometimes is.
I agree so much. It's funny because, like she said, we're from Oklahoma. It's very red state and very, very country-esque, like conservative. And it's like you can sit two pastors next to each other and they will not agree on Christianing.
Right.
So you're like, I don't have time for this. I'm not a confrontational person anyways. Like she'll say something and I'll be like, you can't say that. But you can. And she does.
I do.
There's so many times where she'll go on a thing and I'll be sitting here like,
you're like, Oh my God.
Has there ever been something that was brought up where you either disagreed so vehemently or the feelings and thoughts on both sides were so strong you almost didn't post it on the podcast? Or you didn't post it on the podcast?
Ooh, I don't know if there's been times that we didn't post it. There's obviously been times that we don't agree because you know
Right.
when it comes to religion, we just don't. We're not
Yeah.
going to. But there's definitely been times where I will say something and I can see Aubrey go, and I'm like, oh, sorry, whoops.
You hear that butthole just
Yeah. Whoa.
Yeah.
And then, you know, and vice versa. There's times that she'll say something and in my brain I'm like, I don't think that's correct, but
And-
that's okay. You know,
Or-
it just
Yeah, and I think when we have Christian people on that are
Yes.
guests, and she'll be like, "That's nice," and
Yeah.
I'll literally be like, "She's like, this is crazy."
there's been
Yeah.
a couple of times, yeah. I've gotten really good over the years
Yeah.
because you know, me being an atheist, my entire like my parents and my sisters are all still very much Christian Mormons, and so I am used to being sort of the only atheist in the room.
Right.
Especially, again, Oklahoma,
Yeah,
and so
It's- we all assume everyone's Christian over here. Oh my gosh, there's so many atheists. We didn't know.
there's dozens of
We
us.
have no idea.
I bet there's so many that just don't
Yeah.
say anything.
Oh yeah,
Our
Yeah, they
fallen
just sit there.
angels.
yeah.
Lost lambs. I was about to say get thee to the nunnery, and then I remembered that's not
Yeah.
church. That's
That's not
Shakespeare.
it.
I don't
yeah.
know what that is.
It's from Shakespeare.
That's
Oh,
super
fine.
interesting. Super
Okay.
interesting.
Yeah.
Has there been anything that's been discussed on the podcast between you two or by a guest where you're like, that's a good enough point, I'm considering changing how I thought I felt about that, or you did totally change your opinion?
For me, yeah. Oh hell yeah.
Yeah, for
I
either
will
one
say
of you.
to answer your previous question really quick, we did actually have a guest that both of us sat here and we're like, "You're crazy," and we don't
Yeah.
believe anything that you're bonkers. And we, for the longest time, sat on that recording and did not want to release it, and then decided to release it.
Yeah. But
I'm
we
gonna go
released
and
it.
look through your Rolodex and see if it's the same
tell you,
person.
It's not
that
going to
I'm
be
thinking
hard to
of.
find.
It's a
Okay.
psychic.
Yeah.
Oh, never mind.
So
Yeah.
yeah.
There's been
you
a
have
few.
to tell us who yours is later,
Yeah.
so we can avoid.
Yeah.
But anyway,
We've had a few that we left the recording with, like, where there was a lot there that I did not agree with. And there's been people, even vice versa, where we've been on their show and gone and afterwards been like, wow.
Yeah.
whoa.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah.
What's that like, going on other people's shows who may not foster the same like environment that you guys do? Is it
And
weird? Is
was
it aggressive?
I'm gonna tell you, as a Christian guy, and oh
Yeah.
my gosh, he was spewing such crazy batshit ideas, and we're sitting here, and Kathleen's like, he's like a secret serial killer. I just know
Like-
it.
Like crazy stuff. Not just disagreeing with how I view the world, but things like
The
like the vaccine is
has HIV
made-
in it.
is HIV and the government's been injecting everyone with AIDS. I was like, is this a South Park episode? What are you
Yeah,
talking
I was
about?
like,
leave. We were sitting here like, we should probably leave, but we want to know what else he's gonna
Yeah,
say.
but it was videoed obviously, and you can see us.
It was live like this.
Uh-huh.
It was scary.
and you can see our faces every once in a while. Like,
We were like, what?
And that's also a really weird way for him to announce that he has AIDS. Like
Yeah.
And he did. You're
That's
so right.
yeah,
that's a really weird
Um,
way to. It's like, brother, that was just you. I think.
He's
think.
like he's yes. He
was
he
wild.
was funny. We were like,
Interesting.
that
Well,
was
and
the
what's
first-
interesting is you both thought that. Like, you know,
Yeah.
he
Oh,
probably
yeah.
thought you were going to agree with him, right? Being a Christian, he maybe
being
it's
a
possible.
Christian, and then these people say stuff, and you're sitting here like,
Mhm.
I'm not an end times girl. Never have been. Well, I believed it before, yes. But recently have stopped. And so I freed myself of that.
rapture
good.
talk.
Yeah. So when you asked the question, like, about has something changed my mind, we had Jennifer Bird on the podcast. Dr. Jennifer Bird, she wrote a book called Permission Granted, Take the Bible into Your Own Hands.
She's a biblical scholar.
And it's not one of those churchy people where she's like, praise the Lord. No, she's like, look what the Bible says about how, like, the violence in the Bible. And what do you think about this? Because, you know, you're fed the Sunday school stuff when you're a kid. And then when you go to church, big church, sometimes, like, where I'm at, it's still fluffy. It's like not as like, oh, let's look at violence over here. It's just you kind of skim past that.
Mm-hmm.
And so as an adult, hearing her book or reading her book and hearing her talk about it, I literally was like, holy shit, it changed my life. I literally had to like put it down because I was like, I can't sit here right now because how rude the Bible is about the women.
Yeah.
You're like,
yeah.
It makes you think differently, like about the woman who's caught in adultery with a man and they're like about to stone her. And they're like, Jesus, this woman was just, doing her thing and she shouldn't have been doing that. And they're like, so she kind of brings the idea of there's a heading that says the woman caught in adultery. What if it was not said the woman caught in adultery? The Bible literally has a heading that somebody decided it was okay to put, and it's like just making her in a bad light. What if she was like forced into it? What if she just, think about her for a minute.
Well, and if she's caught in adultery, that means they caught the man as well, but he's not there.
And it was in the middle of the morning. Like, come on.
Well, and in a lot of cultures, like assault is adultery. Like in a lot of cultures,
exactly.
So it's
and
like,
so,
what does that even mean?
So there is a lot of topics in that book that I had to sit with and be like, holy crap. She brings up points like the creation story has there's two stories in the creation story. It's not one like consecutive story. It's really wild. That blew my mind. And that Satan is not once at all talked about in Genesis. In the creation story, there's no talk of Satan. It's a serpent.
It just
That's true.
Serpent.
They don't even talk about how he's evil.
He's just very convincing. He's a good salesman.
That. And so the way they talk about Satan in the Old Testament and the New Testament, it's like you can see how man's hand is in it, trying to scare us. So I'm like, oh crap. So,
yeah. And what was the title of the book? Do you remember?
Permission Granted, Take the Bible into Your Own Hands by Dr. Jennifer Bird.
Perfect. I'm going to write that down. Interesting.
Yeah. It's an
very
orange cover. Yeah. She's a beautiful human being. And she's like one of my friends now. I'm literally like, Jennifer, I have a question about the Bible. And she's like, let's talk.
She's great.
Yeah. That sounds great.
Yeah.
And I feel like, I don't know if this has been your experience, but I feel like even though I felt like a very tolerant person when I started this, which is why I started it, I feel like my tolerance has tripled and quadrupled, and to the point where I don't even feel like it's tolerance anymore. I feel like it's interest and intrigue. Like I was always interested in other people's beliefs, but it was more of like an entertainment value type thing. Like I'm just like for once I get to be nosy and ask them any questions. But now it's like I genuinely am so curious about what people believe, why they believe it, how they came to that conclusion. And I found that it's usually pretty understandable. I don't agree with it. I don't condone it all the time. Yeah. But like when they actually have the time in like a chill environment where they know they're not going to be like attacked or gotcha'd or anything, the way that they explain the steps, how they got there, I'm like, okay, that makes a lot more sense than just going from 0 to 60. Like, I'm not convinced. I'm not anywhere close to believing that. But at least I can, like, sleep better tonight knowing that people who think these things got there in a way that's different than what the idea and the stereotype I had in my mind plays out. And I've also... Yeah, and I've also found that we have a lot of things in common when we really sit down and ask questions. On the outside, it's like atheist, Christian, person on this far side of the spectrum, person on that far side of the spectrum. When in reality, it's like most of us don't want there to be any suffering homeless people.
Right.
Most of us don't want kids to be harmed when they go to school, right? Like most of us want to make sure that but the way that we think those problems are solved are totally different, right? Like some people think,
true.
Like guns are the way, or like you have to pray harder or such and such or whatever. Other people think like we need to, vote people into office, or we need to storm the castle, or like the way that we think we need to resolve these issues are different. But when you really boil it down, is sometimes you kind of have to go in circles for a while before somebody will say something. It turns out a lot of us believe in a lot of the same things.
Yeah. One of the things sorry, not to cut you off.
No, you're good.
But one of the things that has surprised me as we talk to different people is, and we've talked to so many different Christian people who believe in God and they believe in this religion deeply. And then we always ask people, where do you think you go when you die? At the end of our show, we ask that to every guest. And the range of answers has been fascinating, because you kind of expect Christians to go, I'm going to go to heaven, hopefully, and that's it. But there's so many that have very different. They'll say, oh, I'm going to go to a large, we had someone recently that talked about how they wanted to go to a large dinner party with everybody they loved and all the food they loved, and their dog is there, and if they want to get up and leave, they can, because they get tired of some of these people sometimes.
That's my heaven. That's my heaven.
This is great.
I can Irish goodbye in heaven.
Yes,
that's
what
amazing.
she said, and I was like, that's fantastic. And there's all kinds of people who, while being Christian and believing the same thing as all the others, have such a different view of one of the like the most quintessential parts of Christianity, which is the afterlife.
Good point.
Yeah, it's
That's
fascinating.
So true.
And then within atheists too, there's people who are like, oh, we blink and that's it. There's people who think there's other things, and there's spiritualists, and there's all kinds of different. It's fascinating to listen to people's ideas. It's really, and it's humanizing too, because you look at somebody who is saying things that you don't agree with for an hour, and then they get to the end and they're talking about their dream of this beautiful afterlife. And you're like, that is really love you. That's great. I love this. This is, I hope that happens for you.
Yeah. I hope that happens for me. Shit.
Yeah.
Are you kidding? Like, I want to be at a table with dogs, like, get up and leave whenever I'm done. I don't have to do the dishes or anything.
Praise God on that one.
Right? Seriously.
Yeah. And I think there's also a common misconception that people who don't believe in God are perfectly okay with nothingness afterward. When in reality,
some
it's
are,
kind of a bummer.
Some aren't. Yeah.
Kind of a bummer for some people.
It's a bummer. I will be so mad. But I won't, but I will. I'm literally like banking on other things.
So much. This is ridiculous.
Doesn't have to do with the type. It just has to do with, I've got expectations after this, and I need met.
Listen,
I'm okay with it.
Right.
But
so
but with even amongst atheists, I feel like most are kind of like, it's really sad to think it, but I just think it anyway. And I'm like, I'm okay.
Yeah.
I'm cocky. This thing needs to continue. We can't just have this for like however long and then it's gone.
Right.
What?
Listen, I need to grow this out, and it needs to be long for a long time. Like, I don't want to work on growth. I don't want it to get like halfway there and then just, nothing. That's not fair.
Yeah. No.
Is there anything that you didn't think you would agree about that you actually agree about and you're surprised to find?
I mean, I think that that's a hard question. There's a lot of things that I should believe in and I don't, and so we agree. Like, I don't know. I did get surprised by getting like someone who just kind of showed up into my life recently. I don't have a lot of space for certain types of people, and this person ended up being this type of person. And I want to say this gently, because I don't want to be disrespectful to anybody who may be listening who may be this person, which is very, very conservative in a dangerous extremist Christian nationalist way.
Right.
And I actually have had a person come into my life that is like that. And I'm sitting here listening to her talk and I'll be like, what the heck? But I'm learning to have space for these types of people, because I think that as humans, we evolve. Science, biology, our brains just work that way. And I'm like, one, don't let the enemy strike, and that's her belief system. And two, maybe I can like be like, do you know what you believe is a lie?
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know if this is going with what you're talking about, but
no, that's totally going. Yeah.
But I've had to stop. Like, I'm not confrontational. I won't be like a complete jerk to somebody unless absolutely necessary.
Even then, she's not actually a jerk. She just sets a clear boundary and is like, I'm really sorry, but this is how we feel. Bye.
Yeah, I'm a jerk behind your back. Is that really shitty? Probably. I'll talk shit on you to Kathleen.
I know all kinds of stuff.
Well, and I will say, over like the evolution of your episodes, I actually think you are like setting more boundaries and getting more like not confrontational, but getting more vocal. Like the difference in the first couple episodes and the most recent ones, you seem like super shy in the beginning, and now you're like, this is what I think. Even if you like kind of giggle afterward, you're still like, but I'm not going anywhere with it. Like that's it. That's what I think.
We both in the very beginning. Yeah, in the very beginning, we both kind of were very reserved about what we would or wouldn't say. We were really nervous about the reactions of people or hurting people's feelings, and that kind of thing on both sides. And as time has gone on, we're just kind of like, fuck it.
Yeah.
Say whatever we want.
Don't listen if you don't like it.
Yeah. I also was concerned with my place in the church. I'm very, very involved in my church. I'm in leadership at the church. I do a lot there, and they take who they put in leadership very seriously. And I didn't want them to have a hard conversation with me. Be like, hey, you can't do this anymore. One, that would hurt my feelings. And two, I don't like putting people in that position to say like, you're not a person of integrity to be here. And I know that now they would never say that to me because I've had pastors come up to me, one specifically, and say, this is a really good podcast. I really like your podcast. And I was like, oh shit. Yeah. So I think I was scared. I was really scared of what my church would say. And then it's funny because people are like, I didn't know you had a podcast. And I'm like, good, don't listen.
This is not the place for you.
I think because I'm like very open about how I feel about the LGBTQ plus community and like live your life and love and let love, like, and I'm there for that. And I do speak how I don't believe it's a sin. Yeah. And I think that's mind blowing to other Christians. And so I'm like, I just don't want to have this conversation with you where I'm not like, I'm putting this out there on the radio waves, whatever you want to call that. I'm not sitting in front of you saying this to you. Like I have to be in the headspace to talk to another Christian who does not believe like I do.
Right.
And because they're nuts when they want to prove their point. And you're like, I'm not here for this.
Yeah.
And I'm always nervous. Yeah, go ahead.
Well, no, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, I'm just always nervous that like someone from the church is gonna be like, well, I heard your episode about this. And the only time anyone's ever done that was like, oh, I heard you like Jason Momoa. And I'm like, oh my God.
I do like Jason Momoa.
I'll start blushing.
And another thing that makes it a little bit difficult. We have a comment that says, if you're forced to be around your family and friends constantly for eternity, there's no way that's heaven.
That's how I feel.
I feel like
that's a very Mormon mindset. There's this ideology that everyone will have mansions in heaven and they're all sort of connected, and that your Mormons really believe in there is no death do us part. When you get married, you're married for eternity, and your children are with you for eternity, and your mom is with you for eternity, and everybody's with you for eternity forever. And I love my family, but even they know that's not going to work for me. I'll start killing people.
Well, also
start murdering in heaven.
It's like, listen, you can't have it both ways. You can't tell me to get married at 19 and also stay married for eternity. There's one or the other. Like, I'm not gonna.
That's crazy.
I'm not gonna live with eternity for the guy that I thought was great for me when I was 19. I also wanted to work at Hot Topic when I was 19.
Oh my God! I wanted a tattoo on my lower back, full tramp stamp of like a butterfly. And no offense if anyone has that, I think they can be really beautiful. But now it is not what I want.
Yeah, at 18, I was gonna get a clover by my crotch that said "Lucky You."
Oh my God! Oh my God!
Well,
we have to stop the show. I have to leave. That is terrible. That is terrible.
I was at the place. The guy would not do it.
Yeah, because he's right.
He was like, your vagina's gonna be out. And I was like, dude, just do it. It's fine.
Oh my God, I
can put my hand over it.
I cannot.
He's like, listen, I'm talking to 30-year-old mom. Don't do it.
Oh my God.
He's literally like, I don't have time.
One of the things. Oh, I'm sorry.
No, I'm still reeling.
You're like, listen, I still have this image in my head that I have to live with. One of the
Irish,
things
so
we were.
right.
Well, that's helpful. That is helpful.
Sure.
Sure. Oh, you didn't say that. Well, that's fine then. What are you talking about? Lucky them, for sure.
For sure.
Let's get this going.
One of the things I was going to say earlier was, and then I got sidetracked, was, we were talking about sitting and talking to people who don't have the same opinion and who often have harmful opinions and say things that we deem as like crazy. And then people are like, well, then just don't talk to them. But I can say from personal experience that some of the most important changes I've ever made as a person were because somebody was patient and somebody allowed me the space to speak and spoke to me and befriended me and asked me the right questions. And it took a couple of years, but I changed and I'm grateful for it. And I never want to be the person in somebody's life who could have been the one to introduce them to, more humane ideas or more just more what's the word I'm looking for? Just the fact that other ideas exist.
Just a different way of thinking. Yeah.
And so it's tough to then cut those conversations off with people because you're like, this is making me hurt on the inside. But at the same time, maybe if I'm the one person in their life that challenges them in a polite way and asks them questions and offers them alternate perspective, maybe over time they'll come around.
Yeah.
And like, that's why we keep having these conversations. And we're not saying befriend a KKK member. We're not saying any of that. We're not saying like, right. She's like, well, fine, then I won't, I guess. Jeez. And like, we're not saying, you have to pretend to be cool with like racist stuff they have, emblems or whatever. But when somebody pops off and says something wild, part of the time I think they want a reaction out of you, and the other part of the time, if you don't have one, that's almost more intriguing to them.
Good point.
And like you have the opportunity to be like, interesting, where did that come from? And they usually don't really have an answer, right? Because they've never gotten that far in that conversation.
It forces them to think, and forces somebody, having these hard conversations, whether you end the conversation agreeing or not, it forces both parties to say, okay, let me reevaluate how this went. Let me think about my own opinions and their opinions and kind of see where I land after that, which is always a good thing.
For sure.
And you never know. You could start to agree with them after a while. You could start to learn their way. No, don't do that. Don't do that.
No, I think that but to an extent, yes, but not in a way that's an extremist. And it's more of a, not like agreeing with them, but understanding why they may believe that. Like you said, like when we're talking about keeping kids safe and what that means. Like for me, it means this. And for someone else, it means something else. And I'm like,
right. There's a big difference between understanding where they're coming from and agreeing with what they're coming from.
For sure.
Because I feel like in order to truly oppose something, you have to know as much as you can about it in order to say that you really don't believe it. And I think half the problem is, especially like politically in this country, nobody's got the time to really learn everything about both sides. So they're just super extreme that they don't agree with it. And while I'm 99.9% sure that I'm still never going to be a conservative Republican, right? At least I can sleep well at night knowing that I did the research I need to know that about myself. To like,
It blows my mind when people are like it's tribalism. They're going to believe something because someone they look up to is like, I endorse so and so and blah blah blah. I'm like, do you know why you're in? I'm having a hard time. I have a friend whose kid's kind of jumping on a bandwagon, and I'm literally like, you have no understanding of what you're believing in right now.
Yes. Like 32-year-old me is like 19-year-old Sydney. Shut the fuck up.
Yeah, girl. Just sit and listen.
Like, do you hear you right now? This is what you sound like. You sound like a dumbass. Like, shut up. And the thing is, like, I was in debate. I had to do research. Like I was like, I thought I knew everything. Like you couldn't. And I look back and I'm like, I am shook that one, people gave me the grace to like allow me to change, and two, still speak to me to this day. Like I wouldn't talk to me. I would beat my own ass if I could go back then. But like, just some of the things that like when we're young and we're like, this is my opinion and it'll never change. I'm gonna put it on Facebook. I'm gonna get it tattooed on my ass. I'm gonna like.
The Facebook posts.
I'm so embarrassed that I'm 90% of my Facebook
I delete some.
I have time hop just to clean everything up.
I do the same thing. Yeah, time hop, and I do like Facebook will be like 9 years ago you said this. I'm like, oh shit.
Yep.
Because it's always like
she's cute.
I love Mormonism. I'm like, oh, delete it.
Yeah.
Like it's nothing to do with anything at all. But you read it and you're like, who the heck is this woman?
You can literally see the line where I started taking Adderall. You can see it like in the statuses. It's like all caps, smiley faces, and then it's like full sentences. God, it's just annoying. It's just so.
When I started Facebook, when it first started in like 2004, and so that back then the way you did things was a little different. The format was a little different, and so I'll have statuses that come up and they're just like fragmented, weird, like is going to school, and it's like what?
Yeah. Kathleen is hanging out with her friends, but now it just says hanging out with her friends.
It just says is hanging out with friends. And there's, like you said, there's no capitalization. Because again, I was 17 years old. No one should have given me internet access.
Oh, so one of my favorite things to do, and he has no idea that I do this. One of my favorite things to do is to go on my boyfriend's Facebook and scroll back to like 2005 and see like the conversations that are like, "Yo, jabronis, like what's going on, boys?" Like all that stuff. Because he doesn't post very much, so like it would take you like 10 years to get there on mine.
Oh yeah,
but on
I
his, it takes like 6 seconds, and I love just being, "Got the best girlfriend ever," and they're like 17 or whatever. Like, "I love you, baby." I love doing that stuff. It gives me the most joy. Like
there was like a sweet spot of Facebook back when it was just college students where it was ridiculous. I had like has nothing to do with the show or anything at all, but I had a boyfriend break up with me in college, and he then went onto my Facebook page. And you know the song "Goodbye My Lover" by James Blunt? Goodbye, my lover. It was featured prominently on an episode of The Office that came out about 6 months before this happened. So that was another like check bad mark. He put the entire lyrics of the song on my Facebook wall.
Girl.
And everybody saw and everybody laughed. Fantastic stuff.
And we're talking about it now.
Sorry, Devin.
One of my college boyfriends, every single day, "Baby, I love you so much. You got my heart and soul. We're gonna be together forever, baby. I can." And like this was before he'd ever said that to me to my face. So like I wasn't cool with it. Like we'd never had that conversation. It was just like every day I was having to delete like all these statuses. And then his mom like got mad at me for like deleting them because it was embarrassing. Like, "Baby, I love you so much. You're the greatest thing that ever happened to me." Like,
oh my God.
And it was so, and it was like when everybody could see your wall. Like,
no,
so funny.
I have a setting on my thing right now. So if you tag me in something, my personal one, I have to approve it.
Oh, I get tagged in a lot of stuff and I untag it because a lot of times it's just bullshit. It's like multi-level marketing schemes. I'm like, don't speak to me.
Or like those sunglasses pictures where they would like tag everyone in like the this like no. Ever since I started doing stand up, it takes about 5 times of getting tagged in photos of like a quadruple chin before you change the setting to where you have to approve everything. You're like, this.
I don't even care about those.
Facebook used to tell me how many unapproved posts I had, and it was like 7,000. It was all just pictures of me with like my mouth wide open, like just.
And you're like, no.
Nope.
If ever that many, I might care.
Oh, Bread of Life is here. Hello, Bread of Life, Rebecca. She was our live stream guest last week. Good to see you, Rebecca. Good to have you. So which I feel bad because we're about to wrap up, but Aubrey and Kathleen, where can we find The Christian and the Atheist?
You can find us on all the major streaming podcast places. And thank you. We're on Facebook and Instagram and TikTok and Twitter. Twitter is a little quiet, so it's TikTok.
We don't know how to use Twitter. We're too old for Twitter.
I just never jumped on that one. And then Elon Musk went and bought it.
And it's like burning down. Right.
It's like on fire.
I'm not sad. Like I never used it.
So anyways, you can find us. And we have a website, thechristianandtheatheistpodcast.com. We're about to launch merch. But
are? Oh, that's cool. Let me know and I'll post the link in here and then in your other episode too.
Yeah. We're excied.
Yeah. Christian. So it's The Christian and the Atheist or just Christian? Okay.
The Christian and the Atheist.
There's like The Christian and the Atheist.
.com.
Yep.
Perfect. And Secular Rarity said, "Wait, before you go, Sydney, how many birds do you have?" I have 4. I have 4 parrots. This is Picasso. That's Pequod. Then we have Eddie and Willa. I forgot Willa's name for like a second there. She bites me all the time. I don't care about her. No, I'm just kidding. I take really good care about her, but I don't really like her. So there you go. Well, ladies, thank you so much for your time today. I've really enjoyed talking to you. It's been great catching up. And if you guys are watching, please go check out the Christian and the Atheist podcast. They're super duper cool. Their podcast was actually recommended to me by the podcast platforms that I use. And now they've been on twice. And I hope to have you on again in the future.
We're here.
Yeah, let me know when that merch drops.
I will. Thank you.
I'll buy some. But
yay.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
There we go. And